Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Imagine that you have a glass filled with water or your favorite beverage, and it's right at the tippy top of your table, balancing there, and you happen to walk by or somebody walks by, and they notice it. They're going to do what? One of two things. They're going to either nudge it back onto the table to save your precious drink, or they might accidentally, if they're not paying attention, nudge it in the opposite direction and have it fall and crash to the ground. The word nudge, as we launched today's new show here at Phoenix Business Radio, is called iNudge, and it's all around nudging people in the right direction, pulling that glass back, right? And taking care of it so that we can fully be our whole selves and be successful. And I can think of no more special people than to spend our first conversation with in the studio today. As we launch iNudge, I have Lynda Bishop with Summit Alliance Solutions, LLC, and her very dear friend and partner, it sounds like, in many ways, Catherine Scrivano with CASCO Financial Group. Welcome to iNudge.
Thanks for having us.
I am so excited to get to know you both better. So Lynda and I, we were saying I'll call it the green room, just because we sound so official, in the lobby. Lynda and I had a chance to officially meet in person at Carrie Ann Munstead's 40 over 40 celebration, the Fierce and Fabulous Women, right before the holiday. And I noticed that your photo too, Catherine.
Carrie Ann has photographed my team. Yeah, she's done a lot of great things for me personally and in my business.
Yes.
She's amazing.
So shout out to Carrie Ann, and I'm so glad that you know her as well. So Lynda and I got to meet each other, and we both, as we gave each other a hug, that COVID hug. Should we? Do we hug? We've been friends on Facebook and LinkedIn for quite some time, champions and cheerleaders of each other, which I greatly appreciate. And then we finally got to meet in person, and then we said it again today. Feel like we've just known each other forever.
It's true. It does feel like that.
Yeah, but I really, other than just seeing how you show up in the world, the conversations you've had that I get to see, of course, on social media and just the way that you carry yourself, I really don't know a lot about what you do professionally. So I'm ecstatic that that's what our conversation is today. How do you two nudge people to success? How do you do that collectively? If there's some partnership there, let's just get into the meat of it. And unlike announcing you as you come on stage for that kind of conversation, when we're here at the studio, we like for you to introduce yourselves. And like Daryl said before we went live on air, we've got up to an hour to talk, and we may or may not use all that time, but I would love for you to brag on yourselves a little bit. I'm nudging you to tell the world who you are. So Lynda, since you're the one who brought us together, would you be willing to start first? Tell us, who you are and who is Summit Alliance. I know you do a lot of incredible things. We'll have time to get it to all, but what's the summary?
Yeah, we will not have time to get into
Maybe
it all.
not.
No, we will not. But that's okay. That's by design as well. So Summit Alliance is it's a firm that I started about 15 years ago because I do so many different things, but there's a common thread that runs through all of it. And so I needed a way to kind of bring all of it together and put it under one house. And mostly because my husband kept telling me, you need to pick something. And I'm like, okay, I pick a new thing and I put everything in the thing because I could not let go of any of it. And I still had a lot more to expand on. And so Summit Alliance Solutions was really designed so that all of my other ideas had a home, and all of the different things that I do in the world and in the community had a place to land. And so it really started as I was a mental health therapist and also a business coach. And I was still working in the corporate arena as well. And so I was the executive vice president of a software firm in Austin, Texas, and still doing things, living from Arizona, and had my part-time therapy practice and my coaching practice and my volunteer work.
Life.
And yes, exactly. This is why you and I knew each other from the very first time we ever even saw each other in the virtual world. It was like, oh, I recognize you. There's so many things to do in this world. And if it lights me up, then I'm probably going to do it. And I'm going to find time, and I'm going to find energy, and I'm going to find a way to get it done and find a way to get involved. And I've always been that way. So rather than give any of those things up, I started a company that I could fold everything into. It really started as a relationship company, business to business relationships, because that's what I was doing in the corporate world. as that job, I managed to package myself out of the corporate world in in the Great Recession. Woohoo! So that was actually a really good move, because I that was the one piece that I really didn't love what I was doing, and I loved everything else that I was doing. And so I found a way to leave the things that I didn't love and put all of my energy into the things that I did, and I rolled that into a company. A lot of relationship therapy, relationship coaching is really where I started, in the business world and in relationships themselves.
Mhm.
I was a divorce recovery specialist for a good 10 years as a mental health therapist. And then I moved that into helping people learn how to develop a good relationship from the beginning so that they didn't need me on the back end.
Mm.
After you've been a divorce recovery specialist for a long time, you start to learn what breaks relationships because you hear all of the stories and you see the damage that happens on that side of it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, how do we stop that from happening? Because I'm a very problem solving kind of person. I don't want to fix the symptom. I want to find the cause and I want to fix that. And so I switched my entire practice and all the way over into the how do I help you have a great relationship so that you don't get in trouble? Or if you do get in trouble, you're not going to get as big a trouble as you would have if you didn't have that initial information.
Yeah.
And then of course, expanded into other things. I got involved with the National Association of Women Business Owners. I got asked to be on their board. Within a couple of years, I was the president of the chapter. The chapter did really well. I got pulled onto the national board. Now, I've been with them for 10 years now, and now I run all of their national programs.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't know that.
yeah. So I do that. So I run their multi-million-dollar women's business group, the Nabo Circle. So I have all of their largest businesses across the nation in my program. And then I also run startup groups and I run the missing middle groups. And we're all about expanding women's businesses across the nation, no matter where they're at. Of course, while I was the president of Nabo Phoenix, I came across a Young Entrepreneurs Academy
Mhm.
and decided that I loved working with kids as a therapist. And so then I had the business acumen and then I had the love for teenagers at the same time. And so I put those two together and started the Young Entrepreneurs Academy here in Arizona. And so that was 8 years ago. That unfortunately did not survive COVID. I partnered with the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for that. And we ran that program for 8 years and started over 120 businesses with high school students during that time, which was fantastic.
Did you all used to do the little young entrepreneur festival outside? Was that you guys?
That was not us. I think that could be junior achievement, or
It
it could
wasn't Junior
be
Achievement. It may be another
no,
group.
no, it was yeah, I know which ones you're talking about. They have business fairs.
Yes, something like where the kids come out and they
Yes.
share and they talk about and they promote and then
You know,
I did
funny
know.
you should mention that because now I'm the executive director of Aspiring Youth Academy, and we're actually having a business fair at the end of February
Okay,
in
you'll
Moon
have to
Valley.
come back on and
Yeah,
have them
there's
come on with
so many
you.
things, so many things. Yeah.
The entrepreneurial spirit for a kiddo who grows up in a family that has
Mhm.
entrepreneur parents, it's just kind of a given, right? Even if they go into corporate or education or whatever they choose, they have that in them. But some people need the nudge and they need the opportunity.
They
So
do
how
need the
great that
nudge.
you do that, right? In relationships, women-owned business, whatever level,
That's right.
incredible. I'm of course the word summit, right? To
Mhm.
me, it makes sense that you've chosen that as your business name. Was there some we were talking about that as it related to iNudge before we came on air, but was there like a summit, like of an epiphany, or did you just kind of land on it after choosing and picking through several?
Well, that's a great question. I love the mountains. I love to be outdoors. I mean, if you can put me out in nature, that's going to be my happy place. That's going to be where I want to spend my time.
Yeah.
I love hiking. But I'm not a mountain climber. Like, don't make me hang off the side of a mountain. I really don't want to do that. But, but I love hiking and I love nature and I love mountains. And so
Perfect.
climbing a mountain, and you don't climb a mountain by yourself. You need you need your team. You
Yep.
need people to get there really strong and to, maybe you could get to the top of the mountain, but you still got to get back down again.
Right.
And it's really helpful if you have more people with you and Sherpas and all that sort of stuff. So, so that's really where that came from. Was Summit was reaching the top, whatever that means to you, reaching whatever that top is for you. Of course, the word alliance, we're going to do that together. And solutions was just basically because I'm one of those people that can think of like 5 solutions really quickly to almost any problem. Probably 4 of those solutions are not feasible and might be kind of silly and absolutely not doable, but I can think of them.
But one
Yeah,
is going to be the
but
golden
one of
ticket.
them just might get you there.
Magic. Yeah, good. So introduce Catherine for us, if you would, and then we want to hear more from both of you. But how do you, well, I already know the answer, but how long have you two known each other?
So this is great. So Catherine Scrivano is a woman that I greatly admire and that I have admired for a very long time. We have run in the same circles for about 10 years now. And it seemed like every time I saw some fantastic award being given out in the community, I would see Catherine's name on it. And I thought, gosh, she must be somebody really, really cool. And then I realized that we were running in the same circles, but we didn't really know each other. Well, we know each other now, and we've known each other pretty well for the last several years. I think that we probably met about 10 years ago, and she's a genius. She is a financial genius.
Oh,
She
dear.
is the
I
only
can live up to this whole.
Oh,
yes,
good.
she
I like
can.
to hear
Well,
that.
I know she can. She is the only person I trust with my money, and because I don't, including me, she is the person that I trust, and which says a whole lot. I know a lot of people, but her integrity is just beyond anybody else that I have ever met, and she's just an all around really fun person too, and a super kind person who gives back in the community. So, Kelly, how did we meet? I mean, you remember this better than I do. We talked about it this morning.
Yeah, I remember one story that is funny is that Lynda and I happened to be at an event, though I don't recall what event, at a place somewhere.
With other people.
Yeah, there are other people in the room. I did not have a lampshade on my head, no matter what she tells you. But I overheard her say, I used to have a Safeway near my home. They closed it and opened Goodwill. And I went, wow, that happened in my neighborhood too. Where do you live? And it turns out, after circling each other all these years, we are neighbors. We live about a mile away from each other. And we live in the far North Valley. There's not a lot of us out there. So that was just kind of one of those small world fun things. So
neat.
Yeah, she would drive by my house to take her dogs up the hill. So up to the summit of the hill near our home. So yeah.
So Lynda mentioned, of course, finances and money, and you. I love that you said, "I'll take that." She called it, I think, a guru or an expert,
a
genius, right? Guru, genius, expert.
It would be a little hard to live with the rest of the day, I suppose.
I love it. So introduce yourself and CASCO Financial. How do you nudge people to success and hold them accountable to financial growth?
I so love the word nudge. It feels encouraging and I guess non-confrontational is what I like about it. We have a financial planning practice in which we work with families. We started the practice very specifically to work with real people. We do have some very, very wealthy clients, but most of our clients are folks who are small business owners. Because of my personal story, I have a real heart for women, especially single women, especially single moms, and have
Hello.
and have been able to just carve out a piece of my practice to really give exceptional support in that area. The most important thing from the very beginning is we're completely independent. We have no specific product that we are tied to. There's no enhancement in revenue, using one strategy over another. I literally can legitimately say I'm going to go out in the world and find the best solution for you and bring that back to you regardless of what my compensation might be. Yeah. And there are very, very ethical people working for companies that have specific products. I don't mean to malign
but
that
for you,
practice.
You like the ability to really customize.
For me, that was an important part of it. And the blessing of my career is having been independent from the very beginning. So I get to say how we do it.
What was either of you, well, both of you, your very first job? I'm curious. What did you start? So for me, I worked at Taco Bell. Actually it was right on Apache in the early 80s and got robbed at gunpoint it was like the after hour bar, shift. And I went home to my dad. I was in high school. And my dad said, well, you're done. You're quitting tomorrow. And I did. It was not a problem. But that was my first job experience. How about?
I did a lot of food service as a kid, but my very first job was working for the state of Arizona My aunt worked in that department and brought me in as a file clerk, the world's worst file clerk. If it was alphabetically close, it was good enough for me. I was not very specific.
In the folders, things actually made it into the folders.
Yeah, my job, as I saw it, was to get rid of that pile of papers, and however that happened was. I'm ashamed to say now, as somebody who has to retrieve things that others have filed, I'm pretty specific.
But now
about
you can,
that,
you can appreciate that it has to go somewhere. Interesting. How about for you, Lynda?
Okay, so this is just too ironic because my first two jobs was the first one, I actually was not old enough to work yet, but I looked older than I was. And so I actually worked in a lawyer's office as a file clerk.
Were you good?
Yeah, but I wasn't legal to work there.
I wasn't either. I lied about my age.
Yeah. Well, they never asked me because I was, it was a long time ago, and
Yeah.
they looked at me and thought I was old enough, and so they hired me, and I'd been working there probably 3 or 4 months when one day he asked me, "So, how old are you?" And I said, "Well, I just turned 15." And he said, "Just turned 15?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, how do you get here every day?" And I said, "Well, I drive that car." And he said, "Do you have a license?" And I said, "Well, not yet."
Were you literally driving a car?
I was.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so I drove a car to work, to the
That's
job I wasn't legal to have.
Awesome.
I legally drove to my illegal job and working for a lawyer.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, so that all made sense to me at 15. And so needless to say, I didn't have a job much longer after that. And so I went and worked at Taco Bell.
Get out of
And
here.
I ran the first Taco Bell drive-through in Phoenix.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. There was this big pad on this big piece of wood on a pad that was hip height, and you had to throw your body against it to open the windows. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, that was my first work experience for those two things.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you mentioned hiking, of course, and outdoors. We'll have to, do you like to?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have to do. I've been really into hiking. It's more walking for me. I mean, I'm not aggressive. Although I did do Camelback over the holiday, and it's been probably 10 years since I've done Camelback. And I thought, okay, my summit might be, here or here. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the top, but I made it the top. And to your point about needing to have a team and everybody surrounding you, I joined a hiking group called Vita Bella. One of my best friends created it with her hiking friends, and they pick 6 hikes each year. 6 hikes each season. So this one's the winter series. And you can either go with the group on the designated day, or you can simply just go by yourself or with your own little group. But if you sign up for it, you get the T-shirt and the little flag. And so it's been great for me because that day I thought I'd only make it about 3/4 or half the way, a quarter or half the way. And I had some new women around me who were like, "Are you good? Can we keep doing it? You want to rest for a minute?" I'm like, "Nope, let's keep going." So
Good for
it was
you.
fantastic. So we have a hike in our future. I can sense it. All right. So I'm curious about relationships, because I know when I was reading your information, Catherine, as well, one of the things you mentioned is the conversation with couples around finances, right? And I know for me, I'm newly divorced for the second time. Actually, it's only been a couple months. Married 15 years both times. And one of the conversations that was the most difficult for us to have, which I wish I had known and prepared for before I said yes and had a ring on my finger, was how are we going to navigate the conversations around finances, our financial growth, our security, our savings, and spending. And neither of those conversations happened. And both relationships ended in a very challenging way.
Mhm.
And now I feel like, I'm 57 years old, and I am starting over financially, literally like a 27-year-old, like my oldest son. I am in the same position. And it is scary, very
Sure,
scary for me,
sure.
especially as a business owner who's, has an employee and a team and trying to figure that out. So that's my personal background. So I'm like, oh gosh, I can't wait to get to know Catherine more, because I'm sure I can learn a great deal from you. What conversations should we be having with our spouses and or children, possibly even our business partners? And both of you can chime in, but I'll ask Catherine first.
Well, one thing I'd suggest that often people don't think of is have a conversation with your partner, whatever that relationship might be, about how they were raised to think about money. because we assimilate so many things just unconsciously. So if you were raised in a home that expected abundance, chances are very good you'll be rather hardwired to expect the same. The converse is also true. If you were raised in a home where scarcity was the expectation, chances are good you are never going to really relax. And so knowing how the person was raised and the feelings around money in their home can probably give you some clues as to whether there's some commonality in experience and expectations, or in fact, there's big differences that probably need to be explored, more thoroughly. Linda, I have always heard the statistic about the majority of divorces being caused by money issues and miscommunication. Is that a truism, or do you think that's real in your practice?
That's a great question. I think that financial considerations and money within marriage is always a factor.
Mhm.
Is it a cause? Mm, it's hard to pinpoint a cause
Sure.
to the demise of a marriage, but it's definitely a heavily weighted factor.
I feel like we have a lot of worksheets and just fun tests and games that we encourage couples to play, and we can facilitate them or we can just send them on their own. The ground rule is that you must be interested in your partner's response. You can't judge it.
Yep.
So you can say, really, I wouldn't have guessed that you would feel that way. Can you explain where you came to that conclusion or the rationale for
Yeah.
that? And only be interested. You can't take it personally if they disagree, but knowing that they disagree gives you the opportunity to start finding the areas of compromise.
Mhm.
And how important is it to you? You and I may be completely on opposite sides of the page. If I'm really passionate about this issue, you probably ought to just let me take it if you don't really care much,
Mhm.
and vice versa. So you find areas in which you compromise. And when it comes to money, I like to see people be a team, even if they silo their expenses. If you're in a partnership, you really should look at this as a team effort and vote for the success of the team, not individually competing. And I do see that happen a lot. It's competition between partners.
Yeah, for my both marriages for me, where I believe I fell short when it comes to finances is that it was important to me and I didn't feel smart enough or experienced enough, and I looked to the man.
Mhm.
I looked to both husbands to carry that torch for us and be the one to make decisions. I wanted to be part of it, but I didn't feel comfortable leading the conversation, and neither time did that happen. So then I would step in and I do it, and I was good when I was doing it and keeping my eye on it and moving us forward. But to have those conversations in both situations, there was avoidance, there was always conflict, and then I would get frustrated and I would then throw my hands up in the air and I would step away. And then if you're not watching it and paying attention and growing it and nurturing it, it goes away.
Right, right.
Twice. It took me, 30 years. And
Mm.
I'm
But, nowadays, there was an old model, maybe our parents' generation, hopefully, was kind of the end of it, where the man always did handle the money. One of our most popular workshops is called "My Spouse Always Handled the Money."
Mm.
And that's to acknowledge that it could be either gender.
Yeah.
It's not specific to, any role other than a division of labor, but the vulnerability of the spouse or the partner who does not have the involvement, should there be a divorce or a death or, incapacity, if for any number of reasons, if suddenly you are thrust into having this responsibility, it's never going to be because something great happened. It's always going to be during a time of stress, and here you are scrambling.
Mhm.
I like the fact that we've had couples attend My Spouse Always Handled the Money as a way of facilitating the exchange of information, where the person who is handling all the financial stuff says, "Gee, I need to let this person know what's a good way to do that. What's a
Mhm.
great way to leave the trail of breadcrumbs behind." It's a very loving gesture, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens a lot that one person dominates the conversation and makes all the decisions, and the
And the
other
other one
person is
doesn't
left in the
know.
dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either by choice or whatever, but then it's
Mhm.
at some point.
Well,
They
like I
have
say,
to know.
sometimes it's just division of
Sure.
labor.
Yep.
Guess who handles the finances in my house? That would be me.
Yeah.
I'm good at that. My fiance is a pool builder. We have a gorgeous pool. If it turns green, I'm helpless. I mean, we're just going to have a green
Yep.
pool. That's his area of expertise. He's going to take care of that. I think that if something were to happen to him, I can probably more easily replace somebody to take care of that green pool than he would be able to figure out our finances. So we have what we call the monthly money meeting because I love alliteration. And we just go over and just high level and where are things and what's coming up. And, we try to make it something fun. We get through it and then we go out to eat or we go to a movie or we kind of celebrate and pat ourselves on the back that we went through that. But I think he's never more than 29 days away from knowing what he needs to know if something happens
Yes.
to me.
And it's important. Yeah. Linda, when I share my personal story, and then of course Catherine gives suggestions on how she supports clients, Wi- is it important to have these conversations in place, or at least a strategy before we come together? I mean, I'm
Mhm.
looking at my kids who are now in their 25, 27, and a 14-year-old, and my daughter's in a long-term relationship, and I adore her boyfriend. I keep, saying, "Hey, it's important. I wasn't a great model for this for you, so I want you to, change the trajectory or the heritage on how I've passed on the money torch." So, should we be having these conversations as we're dating? Since we're, a crew of women here, and I agree that the narrative is starting to change. Back when we were kids, dads,
Mhm.
if it was a two-family home, dads were typically responsible. That's not always the case, but traditionally that was. What are your thoughts on preparing people for the financial conversations? And I'm guessing it should happen before the ring
It
is on the
definitely
finger.
needs to happen before the ring is on the finger. If you're all the way to the altar and you don't know how you two are going to manage your financial resources together,
Mhm,
then you're not ready to go.
mhm.
Because this is your financial security, this is your future, and you are both tied into it, especially in a state like Arizona that's a community property state. As soon as you sign that marriage license, half of what you own now belongs to the other person,
Mhm.
and half of what they own now belongs to you, with a few stipulations. But, um, but super important. And because that this is a sticking point and how we are raised around money and the messages that we get around money and around just stability and what does money mean to you and how do you spend it? How do you save it? What does it even, what role does it play in your life? What does it mean to you? For some people, it's a tool. For some people, it is a measure of worth of themselves.
Mhm.
You have to know that about this person that you're going to, connect yourself to for hopefully the rest of your life. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm a big proponent of marriage, and then I'm not at the same time, so I'm good with it. I'm also I'm on my second marriage too, Karen. So
Yeah.
that's what it is. And I was a single mom for 15 years. When my kids were growing up, they grew up with a single mom who didn't have any money, who worried about money, who scraped every month to make sure that we had what we needed.
Mhm.
And so I think that they were always a little bit afraid of finances and money. And what's interesting is that they have both turned out very differently, where one of my children just, I mean, he pretty much figures money's going to fall out of the sky when he needs it and he doesn't worry about it. And then the other child can make a penny cry and and saves and plans and thinks and if she needs money, she finds a way to make more money instead of borrow money. And she's gotten very, very smart with her money. I don't know that I can take credit for any of that or blame for any of that. I have no idea because I didn't know what I was doing in my own money picture when they were growing up. I know what I'm doing now, but no, in my first marriage, we didn't talk about money. We fought about money.
Yep.
And in my second marriage, we started fighting about money and then we learned to talk about money.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so now we're in it for the long haul, but there was a few times where I wasn't sure that was going to be the case either.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons was money. And actually, now that we're talking about this, I realize I think it was a conversation that I had with Catherine that helped nudge me in that direction of, if I can't find a way to communicate about this with him, then we're not going to make it.
Mm-hmm. That's real.
Yeah.
Well, the decisions and the spending decisions that we make, spending, saving, how we choose to make our living, all of those things at some point reflect our values. There's
Mhm.
some manifestation about what's important to us.
And our self-worth, would you say that as well?
I don't know. I think I need to explore that a little bit more. There's a knee-jerk reaction that
Yeah.
says
So
yes,
speak
but
to values. So
could
it says something about our values.
yeah, so knowing what's important to us, I think, is the foundation before you start making your spending plan, thinking about what's important. I'm thinking of an example of a couple in our practice who really wanted to manage their debt. It had gotten out of control and was really impacting their lives. So we devised a perfect plan for debt elimination. I mean, the numbers didn't lie. It was absolutely perfect. They sabotaged it all along the way. And you know what we discovered was they were not tithing. And that was important to them.
Mm.
But in the enthusiasm about getting out of debt, they had compromised their commitment to their church to tithe. What I walked away from that was, I need to ask better questions. Need to ask more questions. I should have identified that as an issue earlier. What they recognized is because they were not being true to their values, that they were inadvertently going to sabotage this plan come hell or high water. So we regrouped. The plan still worked, took longer,
Yeah.
but they were able to honor
Built
what
in
was
the
important to them.
tithing
Absolutely. Yeah.
reasonably.
Yeah.
Not sacrificing other areas.
Yeah. And we just set more realistic goals for the debt elimination program that just included, a longer timeline
Yeah.
so that they could continue to tithe and feel good about what was important to them.
It's a
And
great
this
story.
this happened over 20 years ago, and it feels like yesterday because, again, I walked away with the lesson about asking more and better questions.
Mhm. Yeah. So when you mentioned values, and that's a direct reflection of values, I went to self-worth because as I've been working through the last 2 years, my own personal challenges after losing my husband to an attempted suicide and mental health issues, you name it, the whole thing. I have struggled to stay focused in business and to, again, start from what feels like the beginning over again. And so sometimes I wonder if my commitment to my own financial growth or running businesses, when I'm kind of deer in the headlights, I've wondered, is it a self-worth thing? Like when it kind of on the psychological end of things. So I'm kind of looking at Lynda when I ask you both this question, but I know who I am. I love who I am. I love who I am to people. I love my life, all those things. So I don't think it's a self-worth thing for me. I think it's more having a plan in place and that discipline and that structure. So Linda's nodding her head. Maybe I'll ask you about that. But I think sometimes it is a self-worth thing and we have to go in and we have to heal that, right? We have to help with that. So anyway, just whatever comes to your mind as I share that personal story.
Well, I think you're right on target there too, because for a lot of the people that I've worked with in the past, a lot of former clients, coaching clients, therapy clients, when self-sabotage comes into play, it can be for a lot of different reasons. But for people who have suffered abuse, for people who have low self-worth, who just don't feel like they deserve to have, they'll self-sabotage.
Mhm.
So because it just reinforces that same story, and it's the story that they tell themselves about themselves. And the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves is who we're going to be tomorrow.
Yep.
And so we have to pay attention to, what do I say about myself to myself today? Because my future self is depending on me today to make the right choices.
I'm thinking of an example around like a thermostat, right? So if we set our thermostat to a certain temperature, it's going to turn off and keep it and maintain it at that temperature. So I know for me, as you describe it, I'm thinking I came to realize I have an upper limit problem. I was challenging myself. I'd hit up against that upper limit and I wouldn't go any further because it was uncomfortable for me for whatever reason. I wanted more money. I wanted more whatever this is. but I'd hit that, and then I would have those behaviors that you described where I was sabotaging. So,
Yeah.
so how do we raise the thermostat at a higher level, and we know comfortably, we can continue to improve and grow, and for me, find that worth and that value.
Well, I think it's
Mhm.
identifying what's important about the effort. My suggestion, I don't want to impose this on you by any means, but my intuition is for you, the important thing would be independence.
Yep.
Being able
Yeah.
to sustain your
Yes.
lifestyle, whatever that be. So if you're looking at your decisions in the light of, just filter it. Does this next decision I'm about to make, does that take me closer to or further from
Yep.
independence? What's important about independence? Why is that important? And therefore, what do I need to do to support that? That's the role, that's the nudge that having a relationship with a counselor,
Yep.
either in Linda's field or in mine, that's our job, is to remind you what was important
Yep.
and
Oh, so
say,
true.
I've used Linda. I'm a great planner. I'm a great strategist, and I can't see the forest for the trees.
Yep.
And have brought Linda in on initiatives that I've wanted to undertake in my practice, saying, I know where I want to be. I just don't have a clue how to get there.
Yeah, I could tell somebody else how to do
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
But when I'm
Absolutely.
sitting there, you and I have kind of had that conversation previously. It's
It-
like I can tell everybody else, and I can see it. I can come up with those 4 or 5 ideas.
Uh-huh.
But to implement and actually feel like it's sound and solid for me,
Well, I'm great at rationalizing. So whatever I want the answer to be, I can pretty much, take the
And
path
you're
that gets there.
convincing,
Oh man, I
which is
am
why you need a
good.
buddy who knows that about you.
And I need somebody with great integrity and
Yes.
someone that I respect to say, you are out of your mind.
I love it.
Back up. And who knows me well enough to say that's not a demonstration of what is important to you.
Mhm.
Have you changed your goal? Sometimes the answer is the goal has moved. And that's fine. We can accommodate that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we don't acknowledge it and then we're
Mhm.
applying a lot of new rules, chances are good that we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I never told Catherine that she was out of her mind.
I don't know. I think she would have welcomed it if that were the case, though, is what I'm hearing. Oh my gosh. So, how does somebody get started in working with you if they're listening to our show today and they're curious? Is there an intake? Is there a phone call?
There is we offer a 1-hour complimentary consultation, no obligation on the potential client's part. And I need to be very clear, no obligation on my part. I don't take clients who I just don't think are a good fit for our practice. And that's for obviously my sleep at night quality and also for theirs. Somebody will be better serve those who are greedy. For instance, we don't do greed. We don't do yelling and meltdowns. We like folks who are long-term thinkers and show great integrity. But if they want to spend an hour with us just kind of talking through what their issues are, sometimes people have great relationships with other professionals,
Mhm.
and they just need somebody to look over their shoulder, a second opinion.
How are we doing? Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I worry about sports analogies because I don't know anything about sports, but what I think the quarterback does on the football team is take all of those skilled folks and coordinate them toward a common goal.
Yeah.
And a better analogy might be the conductor of the symphony.
Both are great.
Just that one person who's saying everybody's good at what they're doing, I'm just going to help them harmonize. That can sometimes be my role. Is I don't interrupt good relationships. If you've
Yeah.
got one with somebody that you're appreciative of, I don't want to interrupt that, but maybe I can reinforce it or send you back to them with some questions that you hadn't thought of asking.
That's a beautiful service to offer, and it sounds very unique. As many shows as we've done here where we've had conversations with anybody in the financial industry, you are the first person I've heard say that you offer that, and to me, it just feels so comforting to know that someone, and I'm not looking to step on toes or take
Mhm.
business from anybody. Let's make sure we're all singing from the same sheet
Yeah.
of music. And if I'm feeling some bumps in the road, then here's some questions you can take
Right.
back to those folks.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I can see why you have had her in your life for so long.
That's right.
and
This
she's the
is why
person
I
that you
trust her.
trust.
Yes, this is exactly why I
Yeah.
trust her.
Catherine, what advice do you have for folks as they step into 2022, financial advice? Is there anything that you would say as we're stepping into this new year?
Well, the 2022 part of your question is irrelevant to my answer. It's
Okay.
the new year is a great time, not because I'm one to make resolutions or think there's anything magical about January 1, other than you're going to get year-end statements. They're going to show you where you are right now.
Yes.
If you come to me in June, I'm going to make you scramble for things. Right now, you don't have to be proactive. They're coming into your mailbox. Make a pile and start figuring out where you are right now.
Good.
That's the first step in planning your trip.
Mhm.
You know, are you 3,000 miles away, or are you 15 minutes around the corner? Lynda and I have had a couple meetings today and been using the GPS and are just delighted to find that we're real close to everywhere we want to be next. It's been a
That's
pretty
good.
fun day. So far, the GPS hasn't lied to us, but we had to start from where we met this morning. So the timing right now at the first of the year couldn't be more auspicious if this is something you think is valuable to you.
Mhm.
The time to start is always yesterday.
Yes. In almost everything.
Second best
Yes.
time is today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I encourage everyone to undertake this as a project. It is not daunting. It's not sad. It can be really fun.
Yeah.
What we enjoy is we develop all the what if scenarios. So we show your current goals, your current situation, and say this is how it will likely play out. And then we get to have the fun of saying, well, what if? Sometimes we implement change as a result, and sometimes we go, oh, well, we wouldn't do that. Then would we? Lynda might think we're nuts.
Oh my goodness. Good stuff. Lynda, how do folks get in touch with you? Are you accepting new clients? I know you have a small but mighty team,
I do have a small but mighty team because we do so many things.
right?
Because my team is pretty focused in on just a couple of things. So in my practice of actual coaching, that is just me. I don't take a lot of clients in my coaching practice only simply because I won't take a client if I don't think I have capacity to actually be there and be available and be helpful.
Yeah.
So I don't take clients very often. My small and mighty team is very focused on Aspiring Youth Academy and getting all of our programs launched and getting kids hooked in and getting them what they need. And then, of course, all of the work that I do in the programs with NABO and Network of Executive Women and running the mastermind groups and things like that. So if you're curious about what kind of crazy things Lynda's up to, and because there's always something and there's always something exciting going on, my website is lindabishop.com. I know that's going to be really tough to remember, but you just have to know how to spell my name right. So it is Lynda. So lindabishop.com has everything on there. And if you Google me, it's pretty daunting and scary. There's a lot of stuff out there. I don't know where this stuff comes from.
Good stuff,
There's all good stuff, but it's always so surprising to me
Yeah.
because I'm just doing my thing and living my life and
love that.
in total accordance to values, right,
Mhm.
Catherine?
Yep.
I mean, this is the thing. This is the thing that we talk about is, we align our lives with what really matters to
Mhm.
us and the difference we want to make in the world and the relationships that we carry with us and how do we bring our gifts and make the world a better place
Yeah.
from that. And so I find that talking about myself is sometimes the hardest thing you can ask me to do because I don't think that much about it. I get up in the morning and I look to see what needs to be done first. Where's my biggest impact? Where can I make the biggest difference? And I pay attention to that. If you ask me at the end of the day, my poor husband, he comes home and talk about communication and relationships. He comes home at the end of the day and he goes, "So what did you do today?" And I just look at him. And I'm like, "I don't even know.
I just
You know,
did.
I did so many things but I've already done them. Don't make me do them again. I have new things to do tomorrow."
Yeah.
And so one of the hardest things for me to do is to be able to really talk about that in a way that makes sense and draws an accurate picture for somebody else. Because I do jump from thing to thing throughout the day, but it's, where can I make the biggest difference? What needs attention? What needle can I move?
Yeah.
and who can I bring with me to move it even farther, even faster, and even stronger.
And having the right people in the right
Mhm.
seats
That's
on your
right. Oh,
team
that
is
makes
everything.
all the difference. I have the most amazing woman. She actually lives in Casa Grande. She's not even in the general Phoenix area. And she helps me run Aspiring Youth Academy. Her name's Kimberly Werder. She is Mick Werder. She is amazing and has been running community events in Casa Grande for a long time and has a marketing company and is super energetic and excited and fun.
Loves it as
And
much as you do.
she does. Yeah.
But
It's a
isn't
pretty
one of the things she
unstoppable
does
team.
for you is documenting processes?
Yes, thank goodness,
Yeah.
because I am not good at everything.
But that's the answer to what did you do today is
Yeah.
if you've got processes
Yeah.
documented. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
fanatic about that for business owners
Oh,
too.
yes. Oh, she's so good at
Yeah.
that, and I'm so grateful for
And
that.
I've
And that's really
never-
why I have people is so that they can do
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Because I'm very visionary, yet I can see the steps and I can walk through the steps. But to go back and document it, that's painful for me, and that's hard for me.
And I've never
Yeah.
met a business owner for whom that was an easy task.
Right.
I mean, it's two different mindsets, I
Yeah,
think.
sure it
So
is.
Yes.
having someone, you're seeing the value in
Mhm.
documenting your processes, I think is critical to the success of a
Oh,
business.
for sure.
Yes.
We've had Chris Ronzio on a couple of times, if you're familiar with his company, Trainial. And
Oh,
he's
yes.
taken, the Trainial is training and manual and
Mhm.
married those two
Mhm.
together. And
It's brilliant.
It is brilliant. He's brilliant to watch and have an opportunity to share his story, his success story over the last 4 years. It's just phenomenal because he really has taken just everything that we've talked about as it relates to owning a business and saying to people, you've got to be documenting and having a structure and a system for how you're doing things. Otherwise, it's chaos if somebody disappears or you make a change or you want to go to sell it at the end of the day, whatever that is. So
I think that's the difference between being a business owner and owning your job.
yeah.
And you can own your job there. That's fine. Just acknowledge that that's what you do. You've just decided to structure your life in which you get to decide what time you start and end and what projects you take, etc. But you can't sell that. But if you
Mhm.
own the business, if you're actually developing an asset, then documentation of the process is critical.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep. Daryl and I, as Daryl's been on board with us as our community manager and producer for, I think, just a little over 6 months. Yeah. And same thing, right? Because it was me in here
Mhm.
for 2.5 years before that doing everything. And so I had some things written down, but I'm like, Daryl, as you learn it, we're going to
Write it
document
down,
this
yeah.
and and then I
So
had
smart.
to use it the other day. He was out, which he had never been out and he was not feeling well. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to come in and produce a show. And we have a new laptop. Thank goodness we have it all written down. And
Good job, Daryl.
yeah, he did. He did a fantastic job. I love it. Could you speak a little bit more, Lynda, about so if somebody's listening and they're interested in the youth work,
Mhm.
I know they can go to the website, of course, but who is it targeted towards and what are these families and kids going to benefit from? And is it a 501c3 or how does that all?
Oh gosh, thanks for asking because this is so important to me. So, Aspiring Youth Academy is a 501c3. We are mostly funded through the Arizona tax grants, and
Okay.
so what we do is we have, well, a few years ago, if I back this up just a little bit, when I got involved with them, they had been in existence for several years. They were actually started as a 501c3 from the 2030 Club. And the gentlemen that were in the 2030 Club really wanted to touch the future and increase entrepreneurship in the next generation. And so they had started Aspiring Youth Academy and they ran a camp during spring break and a summer camp. Then when COVID happened, they also, unfortunately, at the same time, lost their executive director.
Mm.
And so now they didn't have anybody running their programs. And of course, COVID was happening and they just weren't sure what was going to happen. So they had a spring break camp that was right around the corner when they lost their executive director. We had not shut down yet, so everybody was still operational at that point, but they didn't have their executive director to run the camp. I happened to be in New Mexico that week running in a retreat for the Nabo Circle for the multi-million-dollar women business owners. So I was up in hot air balloons and having a really good time when this person kept calling me, and I didn't know who they were. And not only that, but it was a man calling me, and I didn't know who he was. And so I was like, yeah, I'll call him back later. Yeah, I'm busy right now. Well, you know. And so I just didn't. And so I was driving home from New Mexico when he called me again. And so I saw his name come up on my phone, and I thought, I should find out who this person is. And so I answered, and it was Jeff Berg, who is the president of Aspiring Youth Academy. And he told me what was going on with them and how they had just lost their executive director, that they had the funding, they had a camp paid for, but they didn't have any students signed up for camp. They didn't have any camp counselors signed up for camp. They didn't have anything except a receipt for a camp. The way that the Arizona tax credit works is you have to use a good 70% of your money directly to services to who you provide services for. And without students, they were providing no services to youth. And he said, we have got to fix this. We've got to fix it right now. We have a camp coming up. I don't know what to do. Can you help me?
You got on your white horse.
And I said, when is your camp? And he said, it's 3 weeks from now. And I said, oh my gosh, that's impossible. And he said, I know. And I said, I'll do it. And he said, really? And I said, well, what are you going to lose, right? Like, you're not going to be any further back if I fail. And if I can pull this off, then you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I love an impossible challenge. I just do. Like, give me something hard to figure out. Give me, especially when it comes to youth, especially when it comes to something important like this. And I thought, I ran the Young Entrepreneurs Academy for 8 years. I have the students, I have the connections, I have the volunteers, I have the know-how. And I said, do you have a curriculum? He said, yes, I have the curriculum. And I said, great, then let me see what I can do. And sure enough, within just a couple of days, I had all of the counselors. I had appointments to speak at schools, and we filled the camp, and we had the camp, and it was amazing. And before I knew it, he introduced me to his board as the executive director. And I was like, what? And I said, wait. I didn't know that's what we were doing. But it turns out I love what they do. I love all of it. And so I ended up taking that role on as well as all of the other things that I do, and then was able to help them expand their programs, because that's what I do. If you have ever taken a Strengths Finder, and if you know what you're really good at, one of my very top strengths is a maximizer. Mm-hmm. I want to take something and make it even better. Yep. And that's what I do. And that's where my brain goes first is, okay, well, this is a great program. What else can we do? How do we make it better? How do we reach more kids? How do we have a deeper impact? How do we move this even farther across the state? And so now we have 5 programs.
Oh my gosh.
And they run all year long. We went from impacting 40 kids a year to 600 kids a year. So we run a spring break camp. We have an after-school business launch program that's all done online, where they actually get an e-commerce site for a year, completely paid for. Mm-hmm. And so we partner with other organizations, other small businesses that provide these services. We partner with them to provide them to the kids. In the next 2 weeks, we have a Power Speakers class that's starting. It's a 6-week program, an hour and a half once a week, where we will take 20 students and teach them the fine art of public speaking and telling a story in a powerful way. Oh my gosh. And we will culminate that class with a storytelling competition for fabulous prizes, of course. And I still have a few spots open in that too. So if anybody...
And age range is what?
Age range is like middle school, high school.
Yeah.
I will actually take some more advanced grade school kids. I have a couple of kids who are in 6th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, who started businesses this year and made some money. We have virtual business fairs where they sell and they make money. So this is what we're doing. So we teach entrepreneurship. We teach the business basics of how do you start a business? What are the financial pieces of that? How do you manage that? How do you take your idea and bring it into the world? How do you solve a problem outside of yourself? And how do you network? How do you communicate? How do you market that? How do you speak about it? How do you tell your story? It's fabulous work. I love it.
Of course it is. You light up when you talk about it.
Every year, I can't even tell you how many times I would think at the end of the year, I would say, oh, I'm tired. Maybe my husband's right. I'm doing too many things. What am I going to let go of? What am I going to stop? Okay, well, I'm going to stop the youth stuff. I'm going to stop that. And I almost stop and I almost stop. And it's the kids that bring me back every time.
Mhm.
I had really determined about 4 years ago that I was done. And so we had our big graduation. Yeah, he's laughing at me because he's like, that was 4 years ago and you're still doing it. In fact, you're doing even more now. Yep, that's how it works.
Yep.
So 4 years ago, I was done. And we were having a graduation ceremony for my class of students who had all started businesses. And all the seniors were moving on to ASU on full ride scholarships. And we had had this fabulous year and it was so wonderful. And I thought, I am done. This is a great stepping off
send-off.
point. Yeah, great place to be done. And so I thought, okay, this is it. The graduation, it's done. They're in their caps and their gowns and they're getting their certificates and we're all crying and they're throwing their hats in the air. And I'm super excited because when I walk out of here, I'm walking out of here and I'm going to have some time. And right before we were ending the ceremony, one of my top students said, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, can I have just a moment of your time, please? Lynda doesn't know that we're doing this, but we have a surprise for her. And she had gone, her and several of the other students on their own accord had gone and found pictures from the past 6 years of this program that I had been running, and they had created a yearbook for me. They had contacted students from previous years, and everybody wrote me letters, and everybody wrote in the book, and all of these letters were, this changed my life. I have a future now. I know who I am, and I can do anything, and you were a part of that. I'm going to make myself cry talking about it. And
And there's the nudge.
And
there's
there it
the
was.
glass sitting at the edge of the table.
and there it was.
And you
And I
pulled it
looked at
back.
that and I thought, I'm never getting out. I'm in. Oh my
Right.
gosh, there's no way I'm going to stop this.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I can't stop now. And I thought,
Yep.
dang it. And but then it just took on a life of its own all over again. And now with Aspiring Youth Academy, it's grown 100 times over again. And
But
we're
you,
just
you
growing
leave
from
yourself
here.
available is what I'm hearing.
I do.
You just listen and you go where you're led, right?
Yes.
What is the saying around how God doesn't qualify, or he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Slightly different than what you're describing, but the same thing. Like, you may have your own idea, but the universe has a completely different idea for you.
Yeah.
And you're listening, you're paying attention, and
I am
you're
always
showing up.
open. I am. I am curious. My first answer is never no.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not, we can't do that. It's like, can we do that? How can we do that?
Mhm.
Is that something we want to do?
Yep.
And why do we want to do that? And if there's a good reason to do it, if it's something,
We'll find a way.
yeah, then we'll find a way to do it.
Yes. So there's a separate website for the
Yes,
Youth Academy as well?
aspiringyouth.org.
Okay.
And the application, by the way, all of this is completely funded. So one thing I am also very good at, and that my entire team at Aspiring Youth
Mhm.
Academy is good at, is fundraising. And so we have the resources. For the first time ever, I have more resources than I have students. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day, but there's a mental health crisis going on across the nation with our youth.
Yes.
And there's a huge disengagement going
Yep.
on. And I have all these incredible programs and I have empty seats in them. And that's never happened before. I usually, every year, the hardest part of what I do is having to turn students away because I don't have enough resources. And now I have more resources than students.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's our new challenge that we're trying to find our way through now.
Oh, I can help you with that.
Yes, please
I
do.
serve on the board for Treasures for
Please.
Teachers.
Please help me
yeah,
with that. I
yeah.
have the resources. I have the most amazing, life-changing, and
Yeah, clearly.
future-building programs and resources and
People just
community
more
partners.
kiddos and more families and teachers need to know about it.
Yes, and I
Good.
collaborate with like New Pathways for Youth and
Mhm.
other amazing organizations in the Valley, and we're all finding the same struggle.
Good.
And so any help that we can get, and getting the students engaged with the programs, and we have the resources to help the kids. All we need is for the kids to say yes.
Yeah. And they will. They just need to know about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, can you believe we're at the top of the hour already? Went very quickly. I hope that you feel like we had a chance to highlight each of you and how you serve the world in a beautiful way. We said, again, in the lobby, the green room, that the idea behind the show is really around nudging people, right? So it's either a gentle nudge in the direction, sometimes holding people accountable. Did your goals change? Because I remember last time you said XYZ, to paraphrase what Catherine had said earlier. Other times it's a good, it's sometimes we need a shove, and other times it's a little bit of both with a hug.
Or sometimes we run interference.
Or
Don't touch
sometimes,
this.
yes, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm so pleased to get to know both of you in our conversation today, and I'm grateful for you being here. If you'll share your name again one more time, the best way for people to find you online, and also, are you on LinkedIn or where are you on social media? Catherine, would you start for us?
I'm Catherine Scrivano. I am on all social media, like Lynda, just Google me. The best way to reach out to us is probably through the company website, CASCO Financial, and that's CASCO. I don't work for Costco.
Right, use an
CASCO,
A.
CASCO Financial.com. And yes, this has been a wonderful hour. I got to learn a little bit more about my friend. Nothing that surprised me. She doesn't know limits. I'm surprised she doesn't float, because gravity is just something to hold you down, right?
Right. Oh, thank you, Catherine.
But it's been lovely, and I appreciate what you're doing
Likewise.
here. I love the word nudge. I'm going to use it in conversation a
Do.
lot.
Good, do. Lynda, how do folks stay in touch with you? You mentioned your website earlier. Give it to us again.
Yes, Lynda Bishop. That's LYNDA BISHOP, lindabishop.com. Or, Google me. I am on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I don't spend a lot of time on probably any of those things because I'm busy.
Right. Yes.
But I do enjoy them when I do stop by to see them.
Well, I feel
So-
fortunate now, though, because as many conversations as we've had to engage in on Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm
That's
glad that
true.
we found our way to each other. So
Me too.
now I get to share
Yeah,
that circle with
the
Catherine as
same.
well. You've been listening to iNudge, broadcasting out of Phoenix Business RadioX, right here at the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.